In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this model-driven app. Now, this is the third iteration of the task tracker. In this case, we called it the Taskmaster Insights, but it is the third iteration of this app. The first one was SharePoint. The second one was Dataverse with a Canvas app. And this one is obviously model-driven app with Dataverse tables. But I'm going to show you how to set this up and create this using essentially what we did for the Canvas app. Now we're going to cover a little bit of JavaScript as part of this to create the unique ID. So there's going to be a little bit of JavaScript as part of this video here. I'm going to try to put the JavaScript in the description of this video. And I'm also going to show you how you can switch from this view to dark mode very easily as part of this video. Now don't forget to like and subscribe to this content if you found it helpful. It really does help the channel grow. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, for our model-driven app, we're just going to leverage what we've already created for the last video, which was how to do a Canvas app using Dataverse tables. So we're just going to use all the tables that are already here. So if we go ahead and take a look at this table, for example, we created it in the previous video. And again, check that video out if you click here, and then you can see the entire build of this process. We created activity, area, sub area. Now these are both lookups to our sub area and area table. Duration. We haven't completed this part of the process in that app here of how we're going to use this. This is going to be a future video here. And then who it was created by is a system column there. And if we look at our area, it's a really simple table. It's really just the area column, and that's pretty much it. And then we've got our sub area that is the same way. It's just a massive list of all the different options that the user is going to have. And then the other thing we did was we created a security role. Now to create this, all I did was duplicate the basic user security role, and then I added the tables from this solution into that. And then I set the permissions so that it's at the user level across the board. So if we go ahead and click this, we'll actually see what this is looking like here. And let's take a look at our area table, for example. And we've got user across the board. Now actually, this should also be user, so that must not have saved. So we'll go fix that there. And we'll hit the save here. And then also we've got the daily completions table also. So if we look at the daily here, we'll see that that table pops up as well. That's all we really did with the Dataverse side of that Canvas app. Now, the other thing that I did since then that was outside of the video is I just went through and updated all of the different forms that are in here. So if we take a look at this main form, for example, we'll see that I've gone through and adjusted the formatting a little bit in here, and nothing too significant. Now, if you want to add these toggles, because out of the box it doesn't automatically do that, all you have to do is come up here and go to the input option, and then you'll have the option for toggles, and you can add that into your form. That's really the only customization I did here beyond just adding all of this stuff. The out of the box one that's added pretty much all the time is the activity and the owner. And I always put the owner up in the right hand corner here. And if we look at the other views that are on here, or the views over here, it's really the same thing. I went through and updated our active and just basically added all the different fields. Not too complicated. I didn't think I had to do an entire video on how to set that part up. And I just did that for each of the different views that we could potentially do in this video here. So again, a very simple, very basic build for this. Now, what we need to do is we need to actually create our model-driven app right here. But before that, one thing is going to be required for this that wasn't required for the Canvas app. Now, when we populate the area fields, we have this thing called the unique ID that we created. And this is what we're going to use for the primary key for this. So if we come in here and take a look at this, we've got this primary key, which relies on that field that we created there. Now, inside of a Canvas app, it is incredibly easy to populate this information. And again, check out that app if you want to kind of see what that looks like. But it's really, really easy to populate this information in a Canvas app. Inside of a model-driven app, it actually is not that simple of a process. It requires pretty much one of two primary ways you can do this. You can do it through JavaScript, through the events on the form, or you can do it through a plugin. Now, plugins are much, much more difficult to create. It's actually using C# to build out that plugin, whereas JavaScript is JavaScript. It's fairly straightforward. It's not too much more difficult than PowerFX. JavaScript is kind of that middle ground before you get into C# and you're actually doing computer programming. So as far as difficulty, way more difficult than doing a Canvas app, for example. Now we need to add that JavaScript in here for this to work. So let's go ahead and we'll go up to all here and we're going to go ahead and add a web resource. So come down here to web resource and we'll select the option here. So it's gonna be JavaScript, and then we can go ahead and paste our JavaScript in here. Now let me scroll up to the top here. Again, it's not super complicated, but I'm gonna put this in the description of the video. That way you can take a look at this outside of here, because this is kind of hard to read, especially with all the red here that populates on here. But let me scroll down a little bit. And I'll kind of just, you can obviously freeze the video if you want to check this out, but I'm going to kind of keep going through here and show this. And you can recreate this. Again, it's a lot more work, but we're basically taking the area or the sub area. This is actually universal since we kept the same naming convention between both of them. It works for both, but we just took the name and then we took the user's email address and put that together, just like we did inside of the Dataverse-based Canvas app that we did last time here. And all we're doing is basically combining it, but it takes all of this to do that process in comparison to how we did this on a Canvas app, which was just to add it into the submit form and then just very quickly with, I don't know, 50 characters worth of text, put it together and saved it. But this is essentially everything here. Now, I don't know that this is all going to fit in the description of the video. So I'm going to obviously scroll through this so you can see this, and then you can just kind of type it up if you have to, or if it only gets to a certain portion, you can type up the portion that is missing from that. But again, a lot of coding that goes into this. And I did actually put some markup on here to make it a little bit easier to understand kind of what's going on for this. But that's essentially what we're going to do with this. And let's go ahead and put the name on this, and we'll call this the unique ID set. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll call it unique ID setting. And let's go ahead and hit save. And then that'll populate in our resources area here. And let's go ahead and create our app now. So let's go up here and we'll go ahead and create our app, and we'll use the web resource from inside of our app once we get this thing created here. So model-driven app, and we'll do Taskmaster Insights. We'll change up the name a little bit just so we have something a little bit different to work with here, and we'll call it Taskmaster Insights. So let's go ahead and create. This is the third iteration of this app. So we've got the SharePoint version, we've got the Dataverse Canvas app version, and now we've got the model-driven Dataverse version here also. So quite a few different naming conventions. The first one was Task Tracker, and now we're up to our Taskmaster Insights here. Now let's go ahead and find our tables. So we'll do area, sub area, and then let's find our daily and hit add. So now we've got our three options here. Let's go ahead and move this to the top. And basically how this is set up is you come into the areas, or you come into the sub areas, and you can add them here, but you can also do it from here also, is add those lookup items here. Now let's go ahead in the areas and let's just open up any one we here, and then let's go ahead and edit this, save and continue. And we want to go to our events and we want to add a library. Now we've already put it in here, so let's go ahead and look for our unique. And we've got unique ID settings, so let's add there. And what we're going to do is add our onSave and our onLoad. So let's go ahead and hit the event handler here. And let's go ahead and put in our function. Now our function for the onLoad is going to be basically the exact same thing. It's just going to say onLoad instead of onSave. Now we do want to check past execution content and hit done. And let's go ahead and select both. We want to have our area, owner, and unique ID. And then we're going to go over here and we'll do the event handler here. Now our function for this again is going to be the same thing, just with onload. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And again, we'll select our past execution and hit this. And then again, we're going to just select everything in here. Now we also have to handle on change. So if we go ahead and select this, I've already actually done this one, but it's basically the exact same thing, except for when we take a look at this, we'll see that the name is a little bit different. So it's just basically on field change. Not really that much more difficult or complex, but you do need to handle when things change as well. So not just when it's loading or on save. Make sure you add in the on change, and you have to select the field in order to see the on change option. And we're going to go ahead and save and publish. All right, now we can back out of this, and we're going to go to our sub area. So we'll select our sub area here. And again, we'll just select one, and then we'll go through and edit this, and we'll save and continue. And it's going to be the exact same process. So we're going to hit events here. And then we'll go ahead and add our library and hit add. And then we'll do the exact same process for this. And there we go. And then we're going to do our checkboxes here. And again, we'll select everything for this. And then for our event handler here, again, the same thing, just the load. And then we'll go ahead and check the box here and hit done. And then again, we'll select our columns here and hit save and publish. All right, let's go ahead and hit the back button here. Now let's go ahead and test this. We'll go to areas and we'll hit new. And then we'll go ahead and put in test. And if we hit save, we can see that it added the name that we put here, followed by our email address. So it worked exactly as expected. Let's go check our sub areas. And again, we'll hit this here and we'll just do a test and we'll hit save. And again, it did exactly as expected. So our JavaScript is working as expected for creating this. Now let's go ahead and check out our daily task. Now, one thing we might want to do is just hide the unique ID because we don't want the users to actually put anything in here. So let's go ahead and do that quick. So again, we'll edit this, we'll save and continue, and we'll just hide this field so that they don't see that and hit save and publish. All right, now back in our app, I've already adjusted areas so that it no longer has the unique ID. So that's already been adjusted. Now let's take a look at our daily task completions. Now, if we go ahead and hit the new button here, how this is going to work is we can go ahead and create an activity. So we'll just call this a test activity model-driven app. And then we can search for our area. Now, if we don't have the area that we're looking for, what we can do is hit new. And we have our quick create form that I also created for this. So we can go ahead and say new via quick create. And we'll hit save and close. And there we go. Now we've added it very simply, and we can do the same thing here. So if we hit new, we'll have the option to add this directly into here very quickly and easily using that quick create form. Now in this case, we'll just go ahead and select meeting here, and then we can put in our numbers. So we'll put 30 minutes, and we'll go ahead and toggle the weekly update, and we'll hit save. And creating a record was just that easy for this. And there we go. We see that we have our new record that we added right here. So incredibly easy for setting this up. Now, one of the things we can do is we can turn this into an editable grid. You can't add anything, but you could make adjustments. You could come in here and actually edit these things. You could change the active, you could change the area, the sub area, or you could toggle this. If you make this an editable grid, now how do we do that? We go back to our solution, and in our solution, we take a look at our daily task completions and whatever view that you want to modify. Now, in that case, that was the active daily task. We'll go ahead and click that. And we click on components up here, and I've already added it, but it's the Power Apps grid control. Let's go ahead and remove this, and I'll show you how to do this. We'll hit add components, and then we'll do get more components. We'll look for our grid, and we're looking for this Power Apps grid control. So we hit add, and then we go ahead and select this so we can configure it. We don't have to worry about the child, so just go collapse that so you don't have to worry about it. And we want to enable our editing here. Now, I always leave this alone for that. but I do like to put on the grouping and the aggregation. And I like to turn on the column reordering. Again, that's preview, so it may not work perfectly. Now, in this case, we don't actually have colors for our option sets, but if we did, we could turn that on. And we'll turn it on just so that if we do add anything else in the future, that it's already going to be set up and ready to go. And that's pretty much it. Now we can hit the done here and save. And that'll make that into an editable grid. So we'll save, and so that is one very easy adjustment we can do here to make this a little bit easier to work with. Now we could also change these images here, and let's go back to our solution again, and we're going to upload some images that we can use. Now these need SVG, so we have to make sure we upload SVGs in here. Now what we want to do is click on all here, and we're going to go ahead and add a web resource again, and we're going to go ahead and choose a file. And in this case, we went with a calendar checkmark icon. It's an SVG file. And we'll go ahead and enable this for mobile also and for offline. And we'll go ahead and hit save. And then we'll go ahead and add another one. So let's go ahead. We need 3 of them. So we'll go ahead and select all 3. And we'll go ahead and save this one. And then we'll go ahead and add our last one here. And we'll go ahead and enable for mobile and offline. I forgot to do that on the previous one, but I have gone back and checked the boxes for this also and hit save. All right, so let's go ahead and publish all customizations to make sure everything is available. And then we're going to go through and modify the images inside of our app. All right, now in our app, let's go ahead and select our daily task completion here. And let's look at our settings. Now we can change our default icon. And for this one, let's look for OSP. And it is our calendar one. So let's look for our calendar checkmark icon. And now this can take a little bit of time for it to refresh after you've selected it. All right, now let's check our areas. And again, let's go ahead and adjust our icon for this. And we use a web resource. Now this one has list in it. So let's go ahead and search for that. And this one's going to be our list round select. So we'll hit apply for that. And let's go ahead and hit our sub areas view. And we're going to adjust this one also. And again, we'll look for our list, and we'll go ahead and select this one and hit apply. And then let's go ahead and publish. And we can see that our icons have been adjusted here. Now, the last thing that we can do is we could create some charts. So let's go back to our solution and we'll do a couple of basic charts that we can put into here. Now for our daily task completions, let's go ahead and add some charts. We'll click on charts here and we'll click new chart. All right, we can go ahead and select our duration here, and then we'll go ahead and select our area, and we'll add a subcategory of our sub area. And let's go ahead and change this to a stacked column. So now we've got our areas, but then we can see the breakdown of how much time we spent in each and the total amount of time. Now this is going to be a sum in minutes. So let's just keep that in perspective here. And let's go ahead and change the name of this. So we'll say duration minutes by area and sub area. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and save and close. And we've got our first chart created. Now let's go ahead and create another chart. And same thing, we'll do our duration in minutes. And we'll do by area. And for this one, we'll go ahead and change to a pie chart so we can see the breakdown for all of the different projects that we're working on. And we can go ahead and save and close this one. Now let's go ahead and create another chart here. Now we can go ahead and do duration minutes. And let's go ahead and do by are created on. So then we'll be able to see based on the date, and we can select whether it's going to be month, day, maybe by day. It looks pretty good. So we can actually see the number of minutes here, and we can add how much time we spent working on a specific area. So we can see that. Let's go ahead and change this to a stacked column. And then you'll be able to see how much time we spent on each of our areas for a specific day. And yeah, we could do a whole mess of different charts, but I just wanted to give some basic examples inside of a model-driven app. So let's go ahead and save and close. And let's go ahead and publish all of our customizations here. All right, let's go ahead and play our app. Let's go ahead and play. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our charts. So we'll say show charts here, and we'll see that we've got 210 minutes here for our new via quick create, and then we've got 50 minutes here for our task tracker. And what I love about the charts in model-driven apps is it allows us to filter all of our information very easily just by selecting what we're looking for. And let's go ahead and check out this other chart that we created here. And again, we can see the breakdown based off of specific areas. So we did enhancements and app development, and it's a great way to see it. Now we can again filter this just by selecting here, and we'll see exactly what we're being selected here. So that's great. I love how that works. And let's go ahead and check this other one out. And it looks pretty good, and it looks by date here. Now, what we could also do is change this to months, or you could have different variations of this, and we could turn this into a dashboard also, which would just put all these charts on a single tab that we could put over here as well. So lots of flexibility on model-driven apps, and I actually like working with their charts a little bit better, even though they're still very limited, more so than Canvas apps, because they're just very intuitive, very easy to set up and use. My preference overall, though, is still just to use Power BI, but there is a lot to be said about the ability to create these quick charts here that also filter our data. So you don't have to go over here and actually do these filters here. You can use a chart to do the same thing. And I find that incredibly helpful and very useful to be able to do that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this is the standard view. We can actually change this into dark mode very, very easily. So if we come up to our URL here, all we have to do is put in here the flag of theme option dark mode, just like this. So this portion here is all that we need to do, and hit enter. And then we're in dark mode. So it's very easy to switch between dark mode and light mode using a model-driven app. To do this inside of a Canvas app, this is actually, it's possible, but it is a lot more work to do this exact same thing. Whereas all we had to do is change the URL, and all of a sudden we're in dark mode. So very, very user friendly. Now that's pretty much it for today's video. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe if you find this content helpful. It really does help the channel grow and get the content out to other people. Again, the goal is right now to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting there, but it's taken kind of a while. So I'm hoping that we can kind of speed that up by people subscribing and liking the channel. All right, that's it for today. Until next time.